Make the strings louder.
Dave, what are you doing?
Just wiring.
Wiring some things.
Disappointing wiring.
So yeah, this is, where's the wiring harness at? The one that we got yesterday.
Over there.
So this is the wiring harness that we got yesterday from the junkyard. And so if you guys haven't been kind of up to speed on the wiring harness, basically everything is getting tucked. David basically took the whole wiring harness apart, the one that goes in here, and there's normally that big fuse box right over there that sits in the engine bay. Obviously, since everything is shaved and tucked, literally the only thing that is going to be in the engine is the engine harness, and the wiring for the fans will probably actually be kind of ran up here as well. But, so, David, are you making a video about this?
Yeah.
Is it a good video?
I don't know. I guess we'll find out.
Are your people going to be able to wire tuck their 2JZ Supra if they watch your videos?
They'll probably be pretty close to being able to.
They'll be close. So Dave, my buddy, Junkyard Dave right here, he has his own channel, and I'm sure a lot of you guys are familiar with it, but he's making his own video of doing the whole wire tuck and kind of doing a little how-to. So if you guys are interested in that, go check it out on his channel. So that's going to be what he is working on today. I am over here getting ready to cut apart my transmission. So if you talk about a 6-speed in a Supra, first thing that you kind of think of is the Getrag, the V160. Those things, they're kind of going up in price. Parts are getting kind of harder to find, you know, shift forks, you know, third gear things. I think some companies are kind of coming to market with some things like that. But a good low mileage example of like a V160 is like $5 grand minimum, and then they go up to like 8 to 10 and stuff like that. So they get pretty expensive. So that is where this thing comes in. So this is a transmission out of a 2009 and up Nissan 370Z. And how you can tell it's out of a 370Z is it has this little digital box on here, which that's for like the upshift, like where it rev matches for you. And it has the internal slave cylinder in there. So I purchased this transmission used, I think a couple months ago for, I believe, around 700 bucks, but it came with a little bit, the extended shifter, and then the Z-Speed slave converter from the factory, because the factory slaves in these things are plastic and they break. So I've had one of these transmissions in my drift car for the past 3 years or so, with the Collins adapter kit with their twin disc clutch, and I've had nothing but good luck with that thing. I beat the absolute crap out of it behind my 2J that makes around 400 horse, you know, with 265 tires on the back, tons of clutch kicks, tons of like, you know, red line shifts and, you know, down shifts and up shifts and miss shifts, you know, going from like third to second, or, you know, something like that, third, or from like fourth to first. I've done that like once or twice. But the transmissions, they're known for being basically triple synchro all the way through. They shift good at high RPMs, and they hold a lot of power. So people call these things like the baby V160s, and I almost would kind of refer to them as kind of like the newer, improved, like stronger brother, but you do have to kind of do some things to get them adapted. So that's where Collins Performance comes into play. On my drift car, I just have the adapter plate, which adds about, I think it's about a ½ inch. It's a steel adapter plate, and it adapts to the JZ. So for the Supra, a lot of guys are concerned with the bell housing right here on these Z34 trannies, or Z33 like CD09 style trannies, are a lot bigger right here. So you can see how wide this is. So it's not necessarily an issue right here because this is in the engine bay. It's mostly right here. So the tranny tunnels are smaller in here, and so he came up with a kit that basically you cut off the front of the bell housing right here. I believe it's right after this. You can see on the inside right here where there's that face, and you basically bolt it, you unbolt this, and then you bolt this adapter plate right here. And so this adapter plate right here bolts to the inside of the tranny. It has its own seal, and then that bolts to the automatic transmission that you typically get with like the JDM like 1J, 2JZ swaps. So it kind of makes it a lot simpler. You don't have to source like an R154 bell housing, which those things are like $400 new. They're kind of getting harder to find used. But so you use the bell housing that already comes with your swap on the automatic transmission. This is a J1 bell housing, which is off of a 1JZ VVTi that I had laying around. And this, like I said, it basically bolts right, let's see, goes like this. Uh-oh, hold on. Hold on. I did it backwards. I guess I should move this thing out of the way. Okay, you can see that right there is where it bolts. Nice and sturdy, and then we just cut off the front of that and then bolt it. It has its own seal, all that stuff. And that's a pretty cool piece right there. So he sells all that stuff on his website. And the new thing that they just came out with is this Os Giken triple plate. So basically what he did is made a custom flywheel right here. As you can see, let me pull this out. Sorry. Filming skill isn't the greatest today. So, right here. This is a custom aluminum flywheel that is spaced out properly and adapts to the cage that comes with the Os Giken triple plate clutch setup for like a Nissan 350Z, 370Z, or whatever. So the reason I went with a triple disc on here is because you could get on a lot lighter of a pedal fill, so it'll almost feel like stock or a little bit, you know, above, stiffer than stock, and have smooth clutch engagement while also being able to hold, you know, over 1,000 foot-pounds of torque. So I don't know if I'm going to be making that amount of power right away, but this thing should definitely last the car a bunch of years, and I don't think I'll have any issues with it. So that is going to be the goal for today. The transmission that we put in the car before we went to Streetcar Takeover is a W58 transmission, which typically comes in the Supras in like the NA, like the NA 5-speed ones, which this car is. It was a NA 5-speed hardtop. So that's in there. We basically did that just to kind of bolt it in, and so that the engine wasn't just kind of riding on only the motor mounts. So I guess without further ado, I'm gonna start cutting this thing up. So I got the whole transmission cut off basically, and it wasn't too bad of a job. You can see I went right behind the second rib on the tranny. There's I guess you could cut like directly on it and you'll have a little bit less of a gap in between. So I think it was a couple of months ago, 3M sent me kind of a care package for, when I was sanding and doing a bunch of stuff on the Supra. And one of the actually two of the things that they included in there was some of their new cutoff wheels. So these are actually ceramic, and they're really, really thin compared to a lot of other ones on the market. So you could see basically doing the tranny, it only used that much on there. And what I've noticed with a lot of other cutoff wheels when you're doing aluminum, it tends to clog up the abrasive material. So those ones did really good. And the other thing that has really, really impressed me for a long time now, for like the past 6 months, is these, they're flapper discs. So they came out with their own flapper discs. And literally, these are the longest lasting, like most aggressive things that I've had. I've tried like the DeWalt ones and the Harbor Freight ones, obviously, but these things just like take the cake. So this was that whole thing to cut off the tranny and do that, and then this one has been a used one that's been hanging around the shop to kind of flap it all down. So yeah, shout out to 3M, and if I could find these things on Amazon, I'll be sure to throw the link in the description of those, because these things are baller.
Trevor likes to spend his nights playing with trannies.
Yes.
Cut the tranny, now he's sticking it back together.
Tread sealing.
Yeah.
Tread sealing.
Depending on all of them or just those,
Just the bottom one. Alright, so Ty went ahead and cleaned the bell housing and painted it with that wheel silver. I don't know if I've told you guys about, where's that? Where's the wheel silver?
that you call right here.
Oh, this stuff is amazing. Look at that. Just looks like a brand new tranny. And all it is some wheel silver. So you gotta degrease it and like make sure it's nice, but it's this U-Paul wheel silver stuff. And you just spray it on things and it looks nice. So, tranny cleaned up really nice. We decided not to paint that. If it was like really grimy or anything, we would have, but we don't need to. So that's ready to go. So what we need to do is go ahead and pull this W58 out of here. I already got it, you know, the bolt loosened, and there's no flywheel, pressure plate, anything like that. So literally all we have to do is loosen that thing and then buzz these down, and then we could yank it out of here. And then we'll stab the other one after we hook up the clutch. So got the clutch and flywheel all bolted to the engine. Everything's tight and torqued down and looking like it's supposed to be. So now, I guess what we gotta do is lift this thing up in here by hand. Is that what we're gonna do? No, we're gonna raise it a little bit. We're gonna use the tranny jack because I don't think that'd be very much fun trying to do that. So that's the next step. Alright guys, so it is finally installed. I have one little thread to chase in here. It was kind of rusty looking, so I need to do that before I could officially tighten that bolt. But yeah, tranny cross member and everything fits really nice. Engine and I mean, you can see how much room is in between there. It gets a little close back here as far as the fitment, but I mean, as far as I could tell, I don't really see it actually touching anywhere, which is good. The little shifter extension or shifter shortener, because on the 350Z, literally the shifter would be back here. In my drift car, I have something similar to this. It's a Mazworks. This is like a Hoke Performance one, and this is actually what I got with the car. So you can see it obviously doesn't bolt right here, but if it did, you could see that it would be right there is where the shifter would be. So Collins does make a little shifter that pretty much puts it right there in the center where it needs to go. So I'll probably be talking to him and see if we could get one of those shortly. And yeah, other than that, I guess the only other thing to kind of complete this kit is to hook up the drive shaft, which I have the drive shaft, and then there is a yoke adapter, because on the Supra diffs, they basically have one of these, which is like one of those, I don't know, it's one of those little rubber guys. So this is basically a built aluminum piece that adapts it to like a normal style drive shaft. So need to install that, but the diff is obviously not in here. I want to make sure that you know, I get these lines and everything tied up right here for all the fuel lines and stuff like that. So I would definitely recommend, if you are going to be doing this with the triple plate disc, It was really, really tight trying to do it in the car. I mean, it's doable, but we had to loosen the motor mounts and basically twist the engine down and kind of do this and, you know, push the tranny like kind of up to get them to kind of mate together. We did kind of run into a little bit of an issue with the clutch like lining directly in there. And the issue with that is just not having a long enough like not input shaft, but like alignment, like clutch alignment thing, which is basically replicates like the shaft of the transmission. So you really need like a really long one, especially since, you know, the clutch is so thick, literally like that whole basket is like this thick, and the clutch alignment tool or whatever that we have, you can see right here, that's pretty much for like a factory like single disc clutch. So I basically eyed it and tried to get it as aligned in there as I could, you know, centered in the disc. But when we got it kind of in there, what we ended up having to do was basically put some bolts back here, kind of get it close, kind of twist the crankshaft as it was going by, and you could see like the tranny like almost hopping a little bit, which probably isn't the best thing. But then what we did is bled the clutch basically, and then put a little bit of pressure on it, and then spun it around, and it basically centered it right up, and then we were able to tighten all the bolts, and that made it work just fine. So that I guess, you know, definitely being on the ground would make it a lot easier, since we did put that W58 in there to kind of hold the engine in there before we went to streetcar takeover. I mean, it wouldn't have been bad, but at that point what I would have done is just completely drop the subframe, set the engine and tranny on, and then just set the body back on there. And honestly, that's probably what we should have done. The amount of time that we kind of messed around with trying to tilt it and trying to get it in there, I just don't really think it was worth it. You know, especially that I don't have power steering lines or brake lines or coolant or anything like that hooked up to the engine, no wiring. It would have literally just dropped right out. So that is, I guess, my recommendation. I'm pretty stoked. You know, I guess sitting in the car and actually pushing the clutch pedal and watching it do something is pretty cool. I mean, there's so much more stuff that is going into it. So David is kind of finishing up. Hopefully tomorrow or the next day we kind of get this wiring finished. He's getting pretty close on it, so that'll be really cool, just to be able to kind of delete all that crap up front. You could see that's pretty much the harness up front. So you could see we got a ground right there. We got the plug going here, and obviously we'll go through and loom everything. But you could see he's heat shrinking it with the adhesive lined, or he's soldering it and using adhesive lined heat shrink. But yeah, as you can see, there's no wires over here other than the ABS sensor, but all the wires go up front. I'm gonna do one of those little cooling panels across the top, so you won't be able to see any of that stuff in there. I still need to figure out this AC line right here, but yeah, overall it's definitely coming together, and I don't know, I guess that's about it. So thank you guys for watching, and I'm gonna try to get back on the daily upload schedule. I know I skipped a video yesterday, but yeah, be sure to tune in, and again, follow the Instagram, and be sure to go check out Colin's Performance, you know, their website and YouTube channel as well. He has some install videos, you know, kind of going over the whole cutting process, going over like some S-chassis diff stuff. They're also offering like JZ mounts to basically mount a JZ in a 350Z or G35 and use this transmission, use the factory transmission. So that's pretty cool. What else? Bunch of cool stuff. Go check out his YouTube channel, as well as his you know, the website. I think it's Colin's Garage or ColinsPerformanceTechnologies.com. But all the links and everything will be in the description. Like I said, I had the other kit in my drift car for 3 years and been beating the crap out of it. We'll see how this one does. I'm stoked. The clutch pedal feels really, really light. It feels almost lighter than a stock pedal, and it'll hold 1,000+ foot-pounds of torque. I'm rambling. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll probably see you tomorrow or the next day.